when working on a vehicle, there's some essential things that you want to check out on every vehicle. And when you do, be thorough, check as many things as you can. This is a perfect example. When you go to do an oil change, you want to inspect everything that you possibly can and be efficient about it. Don't take forever, but check everything out that you possibly can. Be efficient. There's a lot of things, like when you're draining the oil, that gives you time to inspect some things. Before we start, I just want to mention that this is a tool cart, that is a car, this is a cart, that's a car. The cart is to hold your tools. Don't ever leave tools in the engine bay or in the car or on the car or under the car or anywhere around the car. Leave them in your cart, because if you leave them in the car, you risk losing that tool. You could set it on a battery, it hit the battery post, so it blow the battery up in your face. You could risk dropping it down into the radiator and the fan and sending it through the radiator. If it hits that belt, it could fly and hit you and hurt you or damage a part of the engine. You don't want to do this. Bad practice. Don't do it. If you look here, the first thing that you want to do when you do an oil change that I recommend is you pop the hood. The first thing that you want to do is take your oil cap off. Take that oil cap and set it right down into the hood latch. Now, when you get all done with your oil change, then you go to close the hood, it's still in there, you can't close it. And then you realize, oh, I forgot the oil cap. I already did an oil change on this vehicle just recently. It's a personal vehicle of mine. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back on there. And if you're doing an oil change on a car, a modern vehicle, a lot of them have cartridge filters up top. Before you raise the car and drain the oil, you wanna take that filter out. Don't put the new one in, but take that filter out before you drain your oil. Otherwise, when you go to take the filter out and you got the drain bolt back in and the car's on the ground, whatever oil is in that filter is just going to drain right back down into the oil pan and contaminate the new oil. It's just bad practice. Don't do it. While the vehicle is on the ground, you want to check everything you can. You go in, you squeeze the radiator hoses, squeeze the expansion tank hoses, all of them. Squeeze your heater hoses. Your heater hoses are located at the back of the engine. They go right into the firewall. Now, when squeezing the heater hoses or any coolant hoses, but especially heater hoses seem to go bad most often, always be careful. I've done this on, even newer vehicles and had them blow up right in my face on me. So always be careful of that. Once we get this thing on the lift and I show you everything else, we're going to drop it back down and I'm going to show you how to check the engine mounts. Now, you always want to check your serpentine belt. If you lose a serpentine belt on a modern vehicle, you're going to lose your charging system, your power steering, everything. You're going to lose. You got to check your serpentine belts. And if it's bad, then that's a part that needs to be replaced. Check your spark plug wires. Squeeze them with your fingers. If you can feel the insulation squishing around, you can feel the wire inside of there, and you can feel the insulation. There's space between the two. Then that spark plug wire needs replaced. So then you always want to check your air filter. Your air filter is vital. It's important. The reason being, these modern day vehicles, they have throttle bodies that have mass airflows and idle airflows, and if those get dirty and you have a dirty filter, then you're going to lose performance, fuel economy. All these things are going to fill up your intake and your throttle valve body with junk. And just go ahead and check your cables. Check your throttle valve cable. Check your throttle cable. Now the throttle valve cable will have some play in it. That's normal. The one going to the transmission, that's normal. But just check to make sure they're not frayed or about to snap or anything like that. And if they look like that, then recommend replacement. It needs done. Always just look around at everything. And check your battery, make sure it's not leaking, and just check everything out. Check everything out real good. Be thorough. Be professional. People are bringing your cars to you to work on. Most people, when they bring their cars to a shop, they want to get in it. They want to turn the key, go to where they want to go, and that's it. Get in here. Take the cap off the master reservoir, the master cylinder reservoir. Look at that brake fluid. And this car, it's pretty clean. I just did a flush on it recently. It's pretty clean. And so there are test strips to test the copper level in that brake fluid, But since this one's pretty good, I'm not even gonna waste my time, because those strips, I got a pack of 80 of them, cost me 70 bucks. But on a car that is got brake fluid that's really dark and contaminated, you want to test that and see just how bad it is, and recommend a brake flush, because these vehicles all have ABS pumps and modules, and they will fail prematurely due to contamination. And that's an expensive part, and sometimes it's a part that you can only get from a dealer. And you know, people would much rather pay the 80 bucks for a brake flush versus 650 just for the pump itself, not including labor. So that's something you want to check. And down here in Florida, with a lot of humidity, brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs water and it will contaminate easily. Check your PCV valve. This one is full of crud, it needs replaced. It's a $3 part, but you know, it's got to be done. It's overall very important. And so we'll be right back. We're going to lift this car up, and I'm going to show you how to check some other things like wheel bearings and shocks and all that.